Happy Thursday, everyone. How you guys doing? It is Sharla K, Sharla Kornegay coming live to you guys with another Forever Friends episode. As per usual, I hope you guys are having a wonderful night. And it is almost the weekend. Almost the weekend. So we're at that stretch. So hopefully you guys are enjoying yourselves so far, and hopefully I can get some of you guys on with me tonight to have a nice conversation. As per usual, if you are new to my Forever Friends podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. And please do come back again. I hope you stay on long enough so that you can kind of hear your conversation. Hey, oh my goodness, Carla, how are you? It's another one, Sparks. How you guys doing, beautiful people? How are you doing? Didn't miss anything. Just was introducing myself to the folks who might be new, who might not know me. But I'm going to give you guys the question, my icebreaker question for tonight. And then I'll introduce myself so that you guys can think about it. So this is an icebreaker question. It's not what we're going to talk about tonight, but just want to start ease on in the conversation. So the icebreaker is, if you could pick one artist to write, I guess, your love story song, right? I guess the ideal type of lyrics that would describe, I guess, the most optimal or ideal, love story or relationship unfolding, and you had to pick only one artist to do it. Can be from any time or era. Who would you pick? If you had to pick one artist to write, I guess, your love story, thinking about their energy, of course, their lyrical content, what artist would you pick? What artist would you pick? You had to pick one, only one. Only one artist who can, I guess, write your love story, your love, yeah. Who would you pick? I'm curious to see what your answers are. So that's the icebreaker question for tonight. So feel free, whoever wants to answer. And while you guys are thinking about that, I'll introduce myself to anyone who might be new on the podcast tonight. My name is Sharla Kornegay. I am an author, a recording artist, founder of Interact Coaching and Forever Friends Academy, which is basically I do relationship coaching, and we have like a subscription group membership. So, and this is my podcast, named the same, Forever Friends, where we talk about all relationship topics. And I always say that my approach is that no matter what's going on in modern dating and society, what you can get from me is we're trying to look for what stays true, what's tried and true, no matter what the relationship dynamic is, no matter what type of era we're in. What are those godly fundamental relationship truths that stand the test of time, that no matter what age bracket you're in, single or married, you can still apply these in a variety of relationships, familial, friendship, work relationships, etc. So that's what we talk about here. And I'm glad if you're here for the first time, welcome. Feel free. If you want to catch all the full episodes, you can like, comment, and subscribe. My YouTube channel is Forever Friends Academy. That's where you get all of the episode in its totality. On the rest of the platforms, I do, post snippets. But if you want to know and hear the full episode, you want to go to my YouTube channel. So I think I have an answer. So let me put that. Oh, really? Wow. I have had some interesting answers so far, guys. So Carla says Ryan Leslie. Wow. And then it's another one. Spark said Tupac, because he's a great storyteller. Wow. I did not think about those two people. But I agree with both of you. I never thought about Tupac. I guess because maybe I was thinking of singing, not necessarily rap, but he is a very good storyteller. And one of my favorite songs by him is Dear Mama. Yeah. And I do like that, no matter what people have to say about him, I believe that he definitely was for, our community and things like that. So interesting. And Ryan Leslie, wow. I'm curious, Carla, why Ryan Leslie? I mean, he is Yeah, he's very talented, but I definitely wouldn't have thought for him. And then I got MP Rowland says Luther Vandross. I did not think of him either, but that is a good one. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. With that silky smooth voice. Oh yeah. For sure. Luther for sure. That's a good one. Right? So the person I was thinking, I'm so hard. I'm probably still torn right now, but just for the sake that I know that I wanted to provide an answer for you guys, my person was Stevie Wonder. Because I just, you know, I mean, Stevie, right? Like first of all, just his voice, his lyricism, and I just love, I really haven't heard a song from Stevie Wonder where I just didn't feel the pureness of his heart coming through. So that's my pick, guys. Emily, you just came in. I just basically threw out an icebreaker. You missed nothing because we didn't get into the topic for tonight. I just asked a question: if you had to pick only one artist, it doesn't matter from what any era that you want, an artist who has to basically sing and write, I guess your love story, who would it be? So some of the answers we got was Luther Vandross, Ryan Leslie, Tupac, which that one, I still am like, wow, I didn't consider Tupac. So Carla says, in regards to her answer for Ryan Leslie, she says his lyrics are so thoughtful and artistic. They aren't so literal and straightforward. I appreciate that answer. I appreciate that reasoning, especially because I'm a songwriter, and I guess outside of a songwriter, just a writer point blank, and definitely having someone who can craft lyrics that aren't so straightforward, which I think is missing extremely, but it's not another topic in today's music, where you have to kind of, you listen to it over and over again because you want to see what that person was talking about. Really good. And she said exactly what 25 years of marriage looks like. Ooh, Carla dropping the gems, okay? His energy is beautiful also. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving that reasoning, and really good reasoning. Yeah, absolutely. Some of definitely the things that I think about when, one, I'm creating songs. And I think the end of your answer, his energy is beautiful. That's what I was kind of thinking about in thinking about what artists, I would choose. Because I'm like, there's some people who have really good lyrical content, but I don't know about the energy I get from them. So I appreciate your answer. Hey, Justin, thank you for popping in. So I just put out a icebreaker question. Name me one artist, if you had to only pick one, that you would have write, I guess, the love story, ideal, most love, song to kind of describe your love story. So great answers, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for all your engagement and really nice answers. No, not just singers. No, it's another one. Spice. I really like your answer. No, I didn't think about Tupac, but I think you're right. I think there are some, because he's a poet. I think he's a poet first. So I definitely think he can be in, I just didn't think of him because I think I was thinking singing primarily, but I love your answer. I think he's a great choice. Just for the fact that he definitely is a poet first. But he said, if it's just singers, then Brian Cage. Taylor Swift. I knew you were going to say that, Emily. And I think that's so ironic because she built a whole career like making breakup songs. So, but I knew you were going to say that because I know that's your favorite artist. That's funny. That's funny, but you know what? I guess if someone's went through a lot of breakups and then they finally find love, you know what? They could probably write one heck of a of a love song of finally finding the person. So I'm with you on that one. Oh my goodness, that is so funny. All right, so let's get into tonight's quote and then the question for tonight to kind of lead into tonight's topic. So tonight's quote for tonight, and I want to know, I don't know if I want to give you the quote or the question first. I think I'm going to give you the question first because I feel like if I give you the quote, it's going to answer the question. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to give you the question for tonight. Do you think, how do I pose this? I think I'm going to pose this in two ways. I guess, how would you define pride? in relationships, how would you define pride in relationships? Or maybe you can think about it like this: how does pride show up in our relationships? And I guess, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rolling it out as I'm thinking about it. Maybe another way you can think of it is, or answer it rather, is, do you think that our expectations in relationships can be rooted in pride or can be prideful? So I'm sorry, guys. I put out a lot of questions to you guys. So feel free to take any of those approaches in answering the question. So yeah, I guess how would you define pride in relationships, and how do you, I guess, think it shows up in relationships? And of course, we talk about expectations a lot here, and I'm sure you probably hear the idea of relationships and having expectations come up a lot, whether you're on here or just any other podcast, or therapy or coaching, etc. So feel free. Do you think that our expectations in relationships can be prideful or come from a space of pride? So yeah, so feel free to answer that. I know it takes some time to type, so I'm going to wait it out and see what some of your answers are. And while I wait, I guess I'll do a little recap just to give people some time to type their answers on what we talked about in our last episode, which I really enjoyed that conversation. I played, I don't know if I would consider it a controversial. I was explaining it to associate, that a new friend that I made, and I was telling her what my last podcast was on, and for me, I described it to her like, yeah, we just had a casual, light conversation. And then I told her the video that I played, because I played a snippet from a video where it was pretty much a panel of what seemed to be African Americans on the panel. And the gentleman introduced, I guess, what he thought is, he believes that the current marketplace is broken Black women. And there were Black women on that panel who most definitely, at first, I don't want to say they were initially offended, but they definitely looked at him like, what are you talking about? And he began to explain, saying that, sometimes, I guess, in the people that he has either come across, or he's seen either their podcasts or their platforms, relationship expert platforms, where they're not necessarily giving particularly Black women the tools that they need, or correction, or challenging their viewpoints. They're mainly just saying, that man, he did you wrong, or your only crime was that you're too good for him, etc. And he said that's not going to help. That's not going to help us build our communities and really strengthen our relationships. And the pushback from the women were saying, well, no, we're all broken people. Many of us, a majority of us, if not all, need some type of therapy on some type of level, on some type of small level. So she said, I don't think it's just, currently broken Black women, but it's just broken people overall. And in the conversation, I said I understood both of their points, but I really did lean towards what the gentleman was saying, only because just in my academic, history, I majored in communication studies, and the first thing they tell you, because we have to study rhetoric, we have to do debates, we have to study advertising and marketing. And the very first lesson that you're going to learn is that if you're selling a product or a program, you're going to, want to have a target audience. And you learn that the primary consumers, in American households are women. So that's just women all across the board. But because of that, I I lean more towards what he was saying because I think, unfortunately, not everybody is going to tell the truth, and especially in American culture, it is kind of a culture where a lot of people don't necessarily want to give and tell people 100% the truth because they continue, right? That's how they're going to continue to get the follows, continue to get the likes, continue to get people investing in whatever programs or products that they sell, is to kind of sell hopes and dreams and not necessarily provide real solutions and, you know, encourage people to do the real work, which is going to take some time and effort. And it's not always an easy thing to go through transformation and healing without, you can't do it without, seeing yourself in it. So it's not the most sensational thing to offer to people. And just in my experience, a lot of the clientele that I have is women, are women. And the men usually come into play when it comes to like my private coaching or group membership, is when there's a couple in the space. So I understood him from that point of view, and I agree in totality, which I think also the women on that platform agreed with him, is that we want to facilitate more conversations where solutions are being provided, real authentic solutions are being provided that really do facilitate people to have really long lasting, developing, healthy, relationships. So that's what we were talking about at the last podcast. And oh my goodness, Justin's going to make me blush on here because he said, "Hey, Sharla, sorry about that. I was at my lab working on Vibes of Summer Times that we did on Voicey." Oh, good for you. Good for you. Keep it up. I'm trying to get some new music to you guys soon. Just, have to balance it out so I can kind of hit it and, and get it done so I can get it to you guys. But I want it to be all of the things that so many people wrote about the artists, that they would have, curate their love story. I want to make sure it's the right energy, right inspiration, everything on it. Yeah, but I appreciate you. Just anytime you can pop in, I so appreciate it because I know people are doing different things and have busy lives. So anytime you pop in, I'm grateful. All right, so I don't see any answers yet. So I'm gonna say the quote. I'm gonna say the quote that goes along with that question, and it's really a statement that I saw. And I saw it on a YouTube channel, and I believe the channel is called "What Do You Meme?" I thought that was a nice little play that he did, and I forget the gentleman's name that does the channel, but I came across his video, and it was really a video, and I have not seen this video that he was. I don't want to say he was doing a reaction video to it, but he did have a snippet from interview that Kanye West was doing. And like I said, I haven't seen the full video, and I only saw the little snippet from his channel. And basically the snippet was saying I guess the person interviewing him had asked the question to him, because for those of you who have followed Kanye West, how he started out in production, then, ventured into having his own solo career as a rapper. And then not so long ago, he turned over and said he was basically going to do just straight Christian music, and he was a believer in Christ and things like that. And, so many tumultuous turns his life has gone through. Let's put it like that, between the divorce of his wife and so many other things, right? So I guess the person who was asking him on the interview was like, "Where is your faith now with it?" And he basically was saying, when he was going through certain things, I pray to God. If there are certain things that weren't answered, and the person asked him, "How did you get through it though? Like what?" So if that's not the case, and you felt like you prayed to Christ and he didn't answer, what how'd you get through it? And he basically said, because I'm God. When I went through these things, I didn't necessarily pray in a traditional way, is what I'm thinking he's saying. Because you guys know I think of prayer, and I think of our whole life being a prayer unto God. So the actions that you literally do are prayers too. But I think he was thinking of in a traditional sense of clasping your hands and praying and not necessarily taking action. And he was saying I had to get up to persevere through the things that I was going through. So he says, I am, therefore I am God, and I am the God of my own life, basically. That's how he stated it. And so just wanted to give you context where this quote came from. The statement that the gentleman made in the video was, he said that pride is refusing to trust God. And I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever heard it articulated specifically like that, I definitely have said it in many different, hey, Tim, how are you? I've definitely said it in many different ways, but I think that is pretty much a really good statement of kind of give a really good articulated understanding of what pride really is. So again, the quote for tonight is, refusing to trust God is pride. Do you guys agree with that quote? And of course, my question for you guys tonight was, how do you think pride shows up in relationships? And do you think the expectations that we have in relationships can stem from pride or can be prideful? And Tim, you missed my little, I know you came in on the heavy stuff because now we're into the conversation for tonight, but I did throw out what I hope to be a light icebreaker. A light icebreaker at the top of the episode, which was, if you could only pick one artist, doesn't matter from what time or era, to write the love song of your life, basically your love story, the ideal way that optimal way that it could unfold, who would you pick? I've had some great answers. I picked Stevie Wonder. Someone else picks Taylor Swift. Someone else picked Tupac. Someone else picked Ryan Leslie. And then another person picked Luther Vandross. So I've had some, and also Brian Cage. So feel free if you want to answer that light question. But when you came in, we're diving deep into the heavy stuff. So that is the quote, folks, for tonight, and that is the question. So the quote again is, to refuse to trust God is pride. To refuse to trust God is pride. Do you think that is a truthful quote? Do you think that is something that would make sense to make it applicable? Think of that as a mindset. Would that be helpful in nurturing and growing your relationship? And the question is basically, how do you think pride shows up in relationships? And do you think the expectations that we have can come from pride, can be prideful? And Timothy says Robert Glasper. Yes and yes. Absolutely. I didn't think about him either. I just love all these answers, right? Because out of all when I asked myself it, once I realized the icebreaker question I was going to ask you guys tonight, I didn't think about so many of these wonderful artists that you guys have presented tonight. And I think I forgot this to say someone said Tupac, which I definitely didn't think about Tupac, but he definitely is a poet. And Robert Glasper, of course. I mean, he's got all of the vibes. All of the vibes. You can just leave him on repeat, So that's a really good choice. That is a really good choice. Yeah, really good choices, guys. Thank you so much for your feedback. So I'm going to wait, of course, whenever you have your responses, if you have them, please feel free. And when you write them, I will definitely put your answers, your responses, and then we will kind of develop a conversation around them. So I definitely like the quote. I present to you. Usually I'm not going to present quotes that I don't necessarily either like and didn't resonate with me, but also even if it's a quote, let me recant that. I would introduce a quote that I might not necessarily like because I think it is also good to present to facilitate necessary conversations. But I'm saying I'm not going to give you a quote that is just kind of like, okay, it wasn't thoughtfully thought all the way through as to what type of conversation it could facilitate. So that being said, I do like the quote personally because I do think it's the truth. And oftentimes, we have great talks about at length pride when it comes to my family because it is something that, and I think on that same video, someone had made this comment and they said that basically pride is one of the most deceitful things because it's so easy to identify in someone else and very hard for you to see it within yourself. And I was like, wow, that is so true. And there was also another comment, and I want to read it to you guys. It was on the same platform, and I thought it was really good. And it was the first time that I heard this quote or read this quote from the feed that I was looking at, and it's a quote from C.S. Lewis, and it basically says, "A proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you are looking down, you cannot see something that is above you." Let me read that again. A proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you are looking down, you cannot see something that is above you. And whew, I thought that was so good. And I think it really does apply to relationships because one of the first things you're going to do if you want to go through the authentic process of developing true, genuine relationships that are filled with truth, filled with trust, filled with faith, filled with healthy communication, empathy, all of the things, right, that we say healthy relationships have, is that you're going to have to trust. There's no way to do it without actually going through the process of trusting, whether it's trusting yourself and your instincts, not dismissing the soft whispers, or as I like to say it on the podcast, the loving nudges that God gives you in the relationship so that you develop and become a best friend with the truth, so that it's easier for you to be able to decipher when you're talking to people who do mean harm or are deceptive. You'll be able to kind of see through that because in your own time and in your own internal dialogue and processes, you have been able to submit to the truth when it comes to you. So there's that part, but there's also that no matter how much you do that, right, you still have to extend the trust to the other individual who you're going to engage with and be in a relationship with, because you, no matter what, you can't control them and you can't control how they respond to you, to life, etc. So there's trust on that end. And so the only way to kind of have boldness in navigating an area in life that it's not void of some type of risk is that you would have to put your trust in, right, something, someone, the source, God, to be able to, that knows all of the facets, that can be able to see the angles that you won't be able to see. And I love that quote because I thought of it in this way, and I'll use this example. And I think one of the main pitfalls that sometimes relationships can fall into, even if they start off in a great way, is that oftentimes we just want the person to love us in a way that we feel like is best fit. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you've gone through doing your own examination and you've said, this is, quote unquote, my love language, and this is the best way I feel loved, and et cetera, and you've done that due process. You have every right. You have every right to say, this is what I know to be true for me, and this is the best way that I receive love. You have that right. And I also tell people, on top of that, on top of doing that, you will realize that there is what's the word? I don't want to say higher level, but a level that possesses more freedom, when we can choose to be able to relinquish whatever form or whatever attachment that we have, or I'll say it like this, when we can relinquish whatever attachment that we have to a certain form of love coming to us. And I'll explain it this way. Maybe I can give you an example. Sometimes I, will say this to my clients, or even if I'm just talking to maybe a couple who's vulnerably opening up a conversation about relationships, whether it's to me and Ben, where we have noticed, and I have noticed definitely, especially when it comes to either long-term relationships or marriages, where you have certain patterns. You have certain patterns that the relationship goes through and gets into, just because love is not, the presence of true authentic love, or the presence of God's truth is not necessarily permeating that relationship, or is not present in that relationship, so that actively present in that relationship, so the two people can really learn how to harmonize to be with each other. So one simple example of that is like where you have, let's say, a married couple, and the husband, maybe goes away because the wife in the relationship is maybe she's going through something, or maybe she wants him to serve her in a certain way, meaning serve her, meaning like love her in a certain way and do certain things. And because that's not happening in the relationship, or at least that's what she's thinking, because that's not happening in the relationship, there's certain unhappiness that kind of lingers inside of her, because it's not unfolding in the way that she wants. And we all know, and I've said it many times, that when it comes to wanting certain things, or having certain desires in a relationship, the energy, no matter if you're saying something that's right or it's in a right context, if there is energy that is just resonating negatively, it's very hard for the person that you want to, I guess, see you eye to eye. It's going to be hard for them, because that energy, as we know, energy can only be formed or transferred. So what usually happens, because if the man doesn't know exactly how to deal with it, he sometimes will use certain escape routes, whether it's entrench himself in his work, or hang out with his friends, maybe vocalize that to them, or find something else. And in some, on the most negative ends, or the most damaging ends, I should say, maybe find someone else to kind of, another woman, or find peace somewhere else, and further, have a breach of trust in the relationship. So, but that's because the energy, right, in the relationship, if there's nothing taking place, or going on in the relationship to transform the relationship, then they usually just kind of play ping pong with that energy, right? It's kind of like one partner says, tag, you're it. And now whatever the things that I have complaints about you are circulating in my mind. And then maybe it tags the wife, and then she starts thinking about the things that she wishes, would change in her husband. They usually bounce off of each other. And oftentimes, I'll tell the people who, whether it's the man in the situation who desires that person to do certain things, or whether it's the woman, and I'll say to them, oftentimes in relationships, one of the reasons why this type of kind of, my husband likes to call it the devil's hamster wheel, like there are certain patterns and certain systems that you automatically kind of by default fall into if you don't have, right, the certain truthful principles governing your relationship, then the other ones are going to take over. And those things sometimes are mainly what a lot of people are experiencing. So then those things now become like the truth. Like you'll hear people say, oh, or if trust me, the men who aren't here, let me know if you've ever heard this from maybe other men who say, don't get married, because by the time you get married, it's going to be kind of like a headache. You're going to have to deal, you're going to probably have sex less because it changes once you're married, because, you're not going to really, she's just going to try to control you and manipulate you, all kind of things, all kind of things that you hear that are negative and not necessarily the truth. But sometimes when you look around, if you see that this is the pattern that's going on in the relationships, then a lot of people believe it to be true just because the masses are going through it with it. But then we're not talking about why they're going through it. So I'll say that a lot of times when we're in relationships, one of the pitfalls is that we want that person to serve us, right? We want that person to serve us. And that could come in the best of intentions, saying, if you just love me this way, then we will be fine. And I often tell them that one of the things that I have found to be a pinnacle and has been tried and true through all the different years that whether it's us going in friendship into marriage with my husband, that has worked, is that when we're in, our relationship, is that I don't want Ben to serve me. Ben doesn't want me to serve him. We are having that understanding that we are physical representations, prayerfully, of inspiration that direct each other back, right, to God, or maybe not back to God, but just to constantly look to the source from which anything comes from, right? And so it's been great and helpful, one, not to let pride come in, and two, because there's an understanding that if you direct that person to serve, right, God, the source, which created both of us, sometimes you'll think that, or have something in your mind that if this person does this, that, and the third, that this would be the best thing for you. But sometimes it's not true, right? Because there could be other things that are going on, and other lessons that are deeper that you have to learn. And so if I, in my own, right, working on myself and my own transformation and making it be about me being at the most what's the word? Open, having an open heart posture for God to come in and fill me so that I can be the best version of myself here, then that is going to give inspiration for my husband to, right, not only want to be connected to me and have an attraction, right, or a constant intrigue with me, but also to inspire him to constantly, right, connect with God. And God created both of us. So if he connects with God, then he's consulting God on how to, right, love me in the best way, how to navigate the relationship in the best way that is going to affect areas in totality that even maybe I can't see. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes if there's insecurities, let's just say in the relationship, there's insecurities that are going on, in the relationship. And a person can be like, I want this person to do these certain things, maybe it's have more romance in the relationship, or if they did these things, it would meet certain emotional needs for them. But if there's an underlying where there's insecurity underlying that, and the person does all of those things for that person, then the insecurity is what's really running the relationship, and not really truly what the person really truly needs. And I always say, I love, clearly, the love languages is something that, because a lot of people do refer to it, and I've seen and heard stories of people who have said it's made it easier for them to love their partner by just being able to identify that. And also, many times, I have also said that sometimes the love languages that we have are based on our conditioning. And sometimes, if there are underlying insecurities that a person is dealing with, and if their partner appeases it, then it can create a bigger monster at the end, because they're not necessarily consulting or going to God to figure out what is the best way to meet the need for their partner, or what is the best way where this need can be met, but then I'm not also possibly removing or not giving opportunities in the relationship where those things that could be prohibiting that person from growing in a certain way, or being able to see and receive the many different ways that love, right, that God can present love to them, in that way. So I definitely think that the quote is true, and I think a lot of times where the pride shows up is in our expectations, and sometimes when we have that, we don't necessarily accept the opportunities that our partners give to either connect with us, to either express love, because we have our own way. We have our own idea of how it to best meet our need. So that's okay. Like I said in the beginning, when talking about the love languages, it's fine to be able to process that and identify that. I know my love language. However, if we were weighing out on a scale, where if you have one person who's identified their love language, and that's once someone gives it to them, they identify it, they receive it, and they feel great about themselves, and they feel great, the need has been met, versus you put another person who, they might have identified what their love language is, whether it's really purely theirs, or it's something through conditioning, from how they have been, how they've grown up. But if they identify that, but they say, you know what, I get that this is the best way that I think that I receive the expression of love from someone else. However, I'm going to make sure that I stay open and awake and alert to all the different forms and all the different opportunities that God can present to me, and my partner can present to me, of how they're going to express love to me. Because you'll have people where it's like, okay, if gifts is your thing, and then your partner doesn't give you gifts often, but they're doing things, acts of service, maybe around the house, or they're giving you a lot of affirmation. If you are a person that's just stuck and saying that this is my highest level, so I need you to do this for me, then you miss the opportunity that they're giving you to show in other ways. And for me, I tether how my husband expresses love to me or nurtures our relationship very connected to me being open to receive the opportunities that God grants me. You know what I mean? And I think if we took it out of the context of relationships and put it into like maybe business opportunities, or, investments and finances, right? If we put it in those areas, I think people would be fine with understanding and feeling like, yeah, it's better if you keep your eye open and if you have more than one net to catch, right? Either finances or to be able to grow your finances instead of just having this one way, or this one net for you to be able to either make investments or grow. It's the same way in relationships. And I think it can be prideful if something is done, again, if that person presents something to you in the relationship, and because it's not either how you envisioned it, or again, how you feel like you best receive love, that then you miss the opportunity completely. And sometimes people can even belittle what the person has done. And there's definitely a lot of that in the culture now, right? Like, if you don't make a certain amount of money, if you don't look a certain way, people are going to, right, sometimes belittle and look down. And that's why I love that quote that I read from C.S. Lewis, where he said, a proud man is always looking down, and on people. And so that man, if he's constantly doing that, he can't look above. And I thought that was really great, because sometimes our expectations or our idealizations of what we feel how that person is supposed to show up for us can be so much of a big monument that it blocks any kind of opportunity to connect to God, so that God can guide you in the relationship, or at least make you open to accept or receive the opportunity that love is giving you in the relationship, to receive it. So I definitely think at the most core meaning of what pride is definitely the refusal to definitely trust God. And that comes up very, I always say pride is stealth. Again, it's very deceitful. Sometimes you can identify it on another person. We definitely will see somebody and be like, oh, that person's acting pretty prideful, or they're lofty in the things that they're saying. But sometimes it's really hard. It's hard to identify in ourselves, especially when it comes in the package that I've been talking about, where it's like, okay, you go into a relationship and listen, I have said in the past, for me, because I didn't grow up with my father and he passed away when I was so young and I didn't have other male presence in my life, that one of the greatest gifts that God could have given me is the wisdom somehow to know at a young age that I needed to be able to observe and be watchful around when I'm around men. I prayed that he would send me all kind of different angels that I would be able to receive love from, because I knew it was coming from him anyway. But I specifically said, I want, I'm gonna have my eye out for the male presence and be able to observe and learn from them, because I knew that if I am going to be getting into relationships and engaging with them, and if I knew nothing, or if I didn't care about who they are and how they function, on a general level, that I would just be entering that relationship with selfishness, because I would just want that person to serve my needs, or I would just think about that person coming into my life and how they would change it, based on what they would do for me. And once you have that, then it's more self-centered, it's more self-serving. And thankfully, when I received that wisdom at a young age, it helped me, because anytime that I was on the lookout for for the angels. And once I, realized that it was an opportunity For me, I made sure that I had my eyes, my ears, my heart, everything was open. Everything was open, meaning in the way of, okay, I just wasn't going to be around them thoughtful, not be thoughtful. I really took in what they were saying, and it didn't matter what age, right? I said this statement when I was really, really young, like a teenager. So, I was around boys in my school. I listened to them, wanted to know what they were thinking about, what their thoughts were. It wasn't really that different from when, I would be around my friends' fathers or things like that, or even teachers that I had in school. I would listen and I would observe very intentionally for that. And it helped because I was open to hearing the good and the bad. I was open to hearing the good and the bad and seeing the good and the negative qualities that, and what are some of the I guess the pitfalls, that some of them fall into. Why, so it helped. It helped me to not have entitlement coming into the relationship, because I'm already coming with an open heart to understand more than I am to get or gain from. And it was one of the greatest gifts because it allowed me to, like I said, be able to be open to hearing the good and also, the positive and the negative when it comes to men, and it helped. And so by the time Ben and I started our friendship, I had already had that type of understanding just in general about men. So then it was just me kind of understanding him in his own unique way and how he processed things. And but I just think it gave me the ability to kind of remove the selfishness and maybe not fall so much or easily to my expectations becoming prideful or coming from a prideful place, where I can now drop that and be able to say, God, I know you know the best way for our friendship to unfold, as well as I know that, you made both of us. So beyond even what I can craft up in my own, mindfulness, or me taking out the time to get to know myself, there's so many different facets to all of us. And if I can truly trust in you and come to you so that you can best guide me on how I'm supposed to love this individual, especially, come on now, y'all, especially in those times when you might not want to, because either you're annoyed, you are bothered, you are disturbed, etc. You need that. You need that connection with the source to be able to have the clarity, and even if you don't have the full clarity, to have the spirit of grace, to grant grace to that person, and understand that that grace is still being extended to you, and for your partner to extend the grace to you. So I definitely agree with that quote. I think that ultimately refusing to trust God is pride. And that can come up in many different forms in our life. It could be just refusing to trust the process that our life is going through. And when we refuse to, I guess if you can go or walk away from this podcast or this episode thinking of anything else, would be, or thinking of one thing, I should say, it would be, if indeed pride is refusing to trust God, then what is the alternative? Like, what do you put in place of that? And I think in the beginning, when I laid out the background, the context for where I got the quote from, which was that Kanye interview when he said, I am the God of my own life, that he had to pull from his own strength, because when he felt like he was calling on God, he didn't answer, and I think it was such a great statement, and it ties into some of the examples that I gave tonight, because that's what it looks like sometimes in when we're in relationships and we expect that person to serve us in a certain way, and we've calculated what our love language is and what our quote unquote attachment styles is, and we have all these things, right, to identify the best way that someone can love us. And it can come in the same way of what Kanye said. It's like, did God not answer you, or did he just not answer you in the way that you thought he should have? You know what I mean? Like, that's a great question to ask yourself about your whatever relationship that you're in, whether it's a familiar relationship or friendship or, of course, marriage. You know, does my partner not love me, or if they're not doing a certain thing that I have crafted so meticulously, you know, or maybe not even, maybe even haphazardly, I've crafted that this is the best way they should love me. Maybe there are other things going on, and maybe there are other strengths that need to be pulled out of you, that it has to come about in a different way. But if we don't remove our own idols that we create in our own mind, you know, I think it's great that we're in this age of mindfulness and talking about people who, you know, mental illness and depression and things like that. But there's another side to it where pride is like, it is growing leaps and bounds. You know, it's like the wheats and the tares growing together. I mean, like the positive and the good growing together, because people can get in such a state that they feel like they are assessing themselves so much and crafting all of these things, you know, like, this is the attachment style. Do you know what your attachment style is? This is your love language. Do you know what your love language is? And you're building all of these things up, that you can build it and etch it, you know, sketch it and engrave it so much into your heart and your soul that you can literally block and not hear when God is answering a prayer to you, because it did not come in the form that you have already resurrected in your own life and in your own mind. So I definitely think that's how pride shows up in relationships. It's not having room and possibly missing many times when God is answering your prayer through maybe something that your partner is doing. And of course, that's going to require, which is the most important part, is you staying connected. You're staying connected to your personal and your own relationship with God to be able to even identify that, right? But that's a beautiful system. That's where we get to not fall into the pitfalls, and that's one way that both people in the relationship can stay in tune with each other. Without the connection, we can't run a whole, you know, line and just thinking of, you know, Wi-Fi and connectivity and things like that. So both individuals need to have an open heart posture to do that. And even though you research and you analyze and you think about yourself, and maybe you've come to certain conclusions about whatever your love language is and whatever your attachment style is, and just always leave room to be able to relinquish the attachment that you have to whatever form of how love is being expressed to you, or the opportunities to receive or embrace love or have love grow you. You want to be a person, or it's great to be a person, I should say. I don't want to say you want to be a person, but I would say that it's advantageous to a person when they are a person who is open to saying, you know what, God, however you want to present to yourself, however you want to present yourself to me today, I will receive it. Help me to open my eyes to it. Help me to, you know, let the walls down and the sacred walls and the guards in my heart down, so that I can be able to see the things that you are trying to share with me or tell me, and let me be able to see that through the actions or in the actions that my partner, extends to me, even if it's not necessarily in the most, I guess, in the way that I think it is best fit. And I think as we honor those, whatever you deem to be little things or little moments of progress, or maybe if you think of it as a little opportunity, then it makes room for greater opportunities. Doesn't mean that that person's never going to meet that quote unquote highest love language of yours. But if you're open to from the micro to the macro versions of that, then you're not going to miss anything. You're not going to miss anything. And I think that's a way that we can drop the pride, where we think that we know what's best. You can definitely assess yourself. Definitely, you have to peer into your heart and your soul to know who you are and to, grow and get to certain places. And as you do that, you always leave flexible room for God to shift, and grow your understanding of what the steps that you've taken in the proper direction to be the best version of yourself. So that is my take on that, for sure. Hopefully I've articulated in the best way to you guys. Of course, as per usual, if I think about something else, I'll come back and talk about it. But I just thought it was such, the way it's articulated is so true. And I think, that's something that's not easy. It's challenging for many of us to do in many different areas of our life. And especially when he said, that he prayed and God didn't answer. So he had to get up with his own strength and become the God of his own life to get it done. And, that just truly resonated with me because I think many of us probably have been, at least I don't know if we've taken it to the extent of like what he said, where I just became the God of my own life, and that's where he's at right now. But I think there's many times, where we're going through something or a process where we might not understand and we don't have the clarity, and then we say, well, God didn't show up. But it's just not true, It just depends on where you are, and sometimes, like I said, the way that we envision this thing unfolding, or the resulting ending of it, maybe didn't manifest in the way that we thought. But most definitely, if you have a heart posture where you're willing to kind of seek the truth and seek understanding, and then you'll see the spaces and the places where, God might have either helped you to dodge a bullet, help you to, maybe not give you that thing because maybe you weren't ready, or, maybe there's something else that has to be dealt with. So this thing that you really want or desire can't happen yet. So it reminds me of I think it's not like a parable, but it's like a story that I've heard before, where the guy who's like shipwrecked and he's out in sea, and then he prays to God to send him for help. And I'm probably saying this in the wrong order, but I know like either a boat passes him by, or a plane, something. It's like three things that passes him by, and he's like, no, God's gonna help me, and he literally rejects the help all along the way. And then he says, after that third, I think it was the plane that came last, I'm not certain, but he said after that, last method that God sent to him for help was there was no other help that was sent. And he was like, God, I was praying, I thought you were going to help me. I was like, all three of those things were the way that I was helping you. But I guess he wanted it in a different way. Maybe he wanted God himself to come down and help him so that he can thoroughly see it, So I think when it comes to our relationships, and I will end off with this statement, which I heard by the beautiful Kelly Rowland. I saw her on an interview recently And I thought this statement that she made was so true and so pertinent to tonight's topic. She said, whenever you see someone doing something or if they've received an opportunity, don't belittle anyone's opportunity. Like, just don't do it. Don't belittle their opportunity, because even if you don't think it's so grand, it's their opportunity, right? And all of us have steps and stages in life that we go through. And so that's one way, right, that we can kind of help and combat pride from coming in, is being grateful for the most smallest things, knowing that what you deem to be small might be grand to someone else. It might be grand to someone else. And I think that's just a great environment to have in any type of relationship, is to say, whatever you offer me, I'm going to be grateful for it. I'm going to be grateful. And I know there are people like, well, there's people in relationships, some people lazy, they're just not doing enough and things like that. But I always say this, like, you having gratitude every step of the way for someone doing something is not going to make you stay in a relationship that you don't belong in for long. It's actually going to propel you further very quickly out of it because of your heart posture. And it's when someone's like that, they're not holding on. Most of the times when people stay in relationships, it's because they're holding on to an ending that they have envisioned. They're holding on to an expectation that they've attached to. So therefore, it becomes hard to grow out of it. But a person who has a heart posture of gratitude, who is saying, I'm going to seek, and receive all the goodness, all the positivity that I get, whether it's in my own communion with God or me understanding that people expressing love to me here and us being in relationships, it gives love a physical form here. It is a way that God can express himself through us to each other. So if I'm on the lookout for that, and I'm not going to say, oh, that wasn't good enough, that opportunity, or that person who wanted to give me, that was nothing, then pride is going to be all over that person, and they're going to miss a lot of things. And more importantly, what's growing in their heart is going to be not good at all, right? Not just the external things and opportunities that they miss. So I think what she said is just really great, and it's truthful. And when you have a attitude like that, there's not much that honestly God won't give you, as well as the people around you. They'll be inspired to give someone like that. Reminds me of the story where people are giving. I think it's people are giving things to the disciples, and there was an older lady who basically gave her last, and they highlighted her because they were saying out of all the giving that was given today, hers is the greatest because she gave her last, right? If you got an abundance and you give, don't get me wrong, it's great, because there's some people who have abundance and they won't give still. So yes, that means a lot. And when someone is giving their last, man, that is the magnitude of their faith that they're showing, and the magnitude of trust and sacrifice that they're exemplifying is highlighted because it was their last, So I just say that to go back to what Kelly said. It's like, don't look down. Don't look down on someone's opportunity. Don't look down on what your partner, your mate, your coworker, your friend, what they are giving to you, because it's only going to put you in a position to receive more. And so that is the conversation for tonight. So I appreciate you, HG Dream. Thank you for joining me. I'm about to get off now, but I appreciate all of you guys who came on with me early on, told me who would be your person to cure, do your best love story song, your artist. And feel free, for those of you who are catching the replay, definitely flood my feed. Let me know, because I was very not only entertained, but it was eye-opening. some of the artists that people said. So feel free, definitely let me know. Flood my feed and let me know what the artist would be, the one artist that you would pick to write your love story based on their lyrical content, their energy, etc. Hey, Soul Nana, I'm getting off now, but thank you so much for popping in with me. I appreciate it. I will be back on Sunday evening at 8 p.m. We talked about pride in relationships tonight and how it shows up, and can our expectations come from pride and be prideful. So it was a good conversation. So yeah, so I'll be back on Sunday. And of course, I always want to leave room. We are finished with the topic for tonight, but if you guys have any other relationship questions, doesn't have to be on the topic for tonight. I always want to leave room for that. So I'm going to give a minute or two just in case someone has to write, and that takes some time. Let me know, and I'll try to do my best to answer it. And if I don't have an answer for you right now, I will definitely come back on Sunday with an answer to the best of my ability. So feel free to think about that while I'm wrapping up. Thank you guys for coming on. Anyone new, anyone who's a returning participant of the podcast, if you have a chance, I would appreciate it. Definitely go over to my YouTube channel. Forever Friends Academy is the title of it. Like, comment, and subscribe. You will get the full episodes from my podcast on there. All full episodes are on there. All other platforms, I just put the snippets, but on YouTube, you get the full live video. So please do that. And if you know of anybody who you feel like would benefit from this content, I would so appreciate you just tell them, there's this woman named Sharla Kornegay, and she does like relationship coaching. She comes on every Thursday and Thursday and Sunday night evenings at 8 p.m. You should check her out. I would so appreciate it because, my aim is just, as I always say, is to help people to love to their fullest capacity and to develop relationships that last a lifetime, and to inspire people that's still possible, because there's so much talk against it right now. And you don't have to be in a relationship. You can be single and still come here because of the principles that, I introduce here are all across the board. They can be applied in friendships, familial relationships. They are the principles that stand the test of time. So, and we dive in, and you can kind of leave, hopefully, I pray, chewing on, some of the things that we talk about, and hopefully having further conversations that bring even more clarity to you. So please let them know. And if you want to dive deeper to something specific to your specific situation, I have to talk in general here because there's plenty of us on, but I do one-on-one individual coaching and couples coaching, as well as have a group coaching membership. So feel free, if you're on IG, click the link in the bio to check it out, check out the snippets, and be able to use the platform to inquire about coaching. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, it's in the description. All right, but I don't see any questions. So as per usual, thank you guys for your time and your energy. You could be anywhere, and I so appreciate that you take any time to be on with me and to engage with me. So I appreciate you. Carla, it's another one. Sparks, MP Roland. Don't blame Emily. Soul Nana, Carolina. Thank you guys. Timothy, thank you guys for popping in with me and having conversing with me tonight. All right. So as per usual, until next time, guys, always remember to live, to love freely. All right. Bye.